fun or otherwise. I mean, I have lots of opinions. I've been talking about this for a very long time. No, I don't want one either. But I don't want one. I don't know why you don't want one, but I don't want one for a very specific reason. Excuse me. Is that the newer cars? Oh, I've got like an eyelash in my eye or something. Ugh, that's really unpleasant. Why do you do this during a stream? Um, I don't want, in fact, I don't want a new car at all for very specific reasons that they are completely and utterly controllable by satellite. And that's one of the reasons why I don't. Now, it might sound very odd because, I love computers and things like that. I don't want my computer to be, I don't want my car to be a computer. I mean, 1993, I had my first second-hand Mercedes. I had a Mercedes from 1993, sorry, that I bought years later, like 2010. It was really quite old. It was about 13 years old, and that already had 3 computers, but it wasn't connected to satellite, and it controlled the engine and climate control and stuff like that inside the car. And then I was told, because I didn't realize I had that many computers. I didn't even realize I had computers. And so he said, but I can't play solitaire on them. And he says, no, there's 3 computers. No, they aren't a green choice either. That's what this stream is going to be about. And so he said to me, oh, it's got 3 computers. It's got 3 computers, I said to him. I said, it's from 93. He says, yeah. Mercedes started very early with computers, managing their cars with computers. He says, the one just works on the engine. The one just works on the environment, like air conditioning and stuff like that, maintaining temperatures and things like that. And the other one runs everything else, like all the other electrics. So there's like literally 3 computers, and that was 1993. I had a 320e. Yeah, solar panels, I'm kind of more half and half because they do have long-term value on a local level. Like if you have your own, putting up like fields and fields and fields and fields of solar paneling. Yeah, no, that's not a good idea either. Yeah, so you said, yeah, it's got 3 computers. I don't know what I hope to hell that they don't, none of them go back up. So that was already 1993. Oh, no, most cars didn't really have that many computers back in the 90s. They just had one for the engine. That was it. So most cars, 90s and so, would have had a computer for the engine. But now the car's completely connected, and you cannot disconnect it. You have absolutely zero control over someone who has higher user rights, admin rights, and that's what bothers me. Not because I think somebody will try and kill me, but because we know how things glitch. So what happens? This is the biggest issue. What happens when you get out to your car in the morning to go to work or wherever you're going, somewhere important, and the car's just be disabled, and then you got to phone somebody, and you got to be on a you are number 3,503 trillion callers on Tesla's. We're not going to help you service, and you can't go anywhere. And your car's controlled by satellite, and they've just decided to turn it off for some reason because they suspected, like we get with Gmail. Excuse me. When we suspected unauthorized activity, and then you on your phone for like 3 days, 4 days, a week. We usually reply within 12 to 300 days, and then your car's just sitting like a huge expensive paperweight. That's why I won't get a new car. I will get one like the Mercedes I had. It was actually literally stolen, like something from the early 2000s, because they had a lot of computers, but they were just local. They were locally controlled. The cables are massive. Yeah, well, living in a flat is an issue. You can use normal plug-in. The problem is it takes much longer. Wow. Excuse me. Let me just mute. I've got a mute button now. There we go. I have a mute button, but I have to have it on OBS before the work. And so that you can, like my landlord in Ireland, I've sadly decided to replace their old Hyundai with a new Hyundai. And it was quite nice. I mean, the new one was lovely. It really was lovely. It's a lovely car. But it's completely computerized. It's completely connected to satellite. It is a hybrid though. They didn't just go and buy. They were stupid. They just didn't just buy an electric one. Well, you see, here's the thing with electricity. It's going up, isn't it? It's going up a lot. They said to you, oh, it's environmental friendly, buy an electric car. Oh, by the way, now that we've all bought one, we're putting up the electricity a lot. Like a lot. You may as well go to the petrol station and pay for diesel or for electric for petrol. Yeah, and they're still telling you to buy electric. I said, are you fucking crazy? Like in Germany, the electricity's gone up. I think they say it's like 1,000% or something over the last few years because of they decided, oh, we can't have pollution, so we're just turning all the power stations off. That's literally what they did. Now they're going, oh, oops, maybe we turned off too many. We need to put them up. We need to like fire them up again, which is very environmentally friendly as well. Restarting a power station. That's another thing. Most people buy like a $3 trillion car only to realize you don't own the battery. So after a year or 2 years or whatever, you got to pay rent. You're renting the batteries, which is in a sense, in some respects, is better because if the battery packs up, etc., it's replaced, but you don't own it, so you have to keep paying for it. Like if you buy a second-hand electric car, you've got to make sure that the battery is included in the price. Most people don't know these things. They just go, woohoo! It's an electric car, yay! And off they go. I'm saving the planet. We'll show you why you're not saving the planet. At no extra cost. Unless you want a long word from Lady Lucia, then she's going to charge you. So that's another issue. So for me, I'll just state my opinion, like I said many, many times. I'm not opposed to electric anything. What I am opposed to is stupidity, which we'll see in these two little videos I've got. I'm opposed to complete stupidity. Okay, what we've done with electricity is we've moved the pollution somewhere else. Let's put it over there when no one's looking, and then we can all celebrate that we've done something, for the environment. I wrote about this. I think I wrote about electric cars. I think in 2014. I think when I released that free book, Recycle Tools. I can't even remember what's in. There's stuff in the book, but I think I just touched it. I'm not quite remember. The point is that you can't move the pollution somewhere else and call it solved. It's like sweeping it under the rug, and that's what we've done. So electric buses, for example, make sense because they are quite a polluter. Like for example, a big diesel engine for a bus will run at big diesel engine bus rates. So it's not like I've only got one person on board, so like I'll switch off half of the cylinders. No, the bus has a lot of weight, etc. So the engine has to do has to cover the maximum capacity permanently. With electric cars, that can be toned down. So like the lighter the bus is, the less electricity it uses to move it around. So if you get one granny getting on board and there's like the bus is empty, it does technically use less electricity. The batteries don't have to work as hard, the motor. So when it comes to electric buses in the city center, and this is not new. Okay, we used to have electric trolleys in city centers for that reason, because it just works. That actually makes sense. Then what you're doing is you're taking a lot of the pollution and you're decentralizing it. You're not getting rid of it. You're just decentralizing it, which makes sense for health purposes. So when you are sitting in the city center and it's hell of a polluted because you've got a concentration, then it dissipates it, to somewhere else. So at least you don't have it all in one place. So that does make sense. And from that point of view, like especially when you're standing still, there is a reduction technically in pollution because electric cars aren't running all the time. They can turn on and off. Whereas, and the people say, yeah, but the electric ones already do that. Yes, but that in itself that's another discussion. That in itself is another form of pollution because every time you start the car, you actually use more petrol. So technically, it's not really particularly intelligent. Then there are wear and tear to the starter motor. So the starter motors don't last 20 years now. They will last 3 or 4 years and they'll have to be replaced. Hello, Barney. Hey, and today it actually I don't know why. I saw it as well for, I think it was a post data. It also doesn't, it's the same command. I don't know. Actually, I saw it shouted out correctly. Post data, I think I also saw she said something else and it also just shouted that out. And I don't actually, I cannot figure that one out because it's one command for everybody. It's the same command for everybody. So they're going to have to look at them. Yeah, so in very polluted areas, that is actually true. It does actually reduce pollution because you've spread the pollution out, you've removed it from a city center, and when the buses and cars are just standing still, they're actually consuming very much electricity as opposed to fuel. So that makes sense. But if you're buying an electric 4x4, I'm sorry, but you're a moron. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no fucking sense at all. A small electric car makes sense, yes. Hybrid 4x4 makes sense. Like my landlord, he bought the new Hyundai hybrid. It's a giant of a car. I also thought this is so ridiculous. I mean, in his case, he was very, very tall. So that sort of makes sense. You want, yeah, we're actually doing it. This, unless people join in and then the conversation gets derailed. But I decided today, at least I'm going to run the discussion, and then afterwards we can go at random things. So that's my viewpoint, which is very unpopular with most people because they don't want to look at the facts. They want to look at Tesla's facts. For those people, I usually suggest a nice brain chip. They're starting to test it on humans. They killed all the monkeys, so now they need humans to test on. So, my water filter cane is a carbonated. Activated carbon, or is it an actual filter? I need to get a filter, but I haven't had money to buy one. I've just got the one which got the activated carbon inside the bottle. Then every 4 hours or whenever I remember, I go and I swap it out into another bottle. But it's still got the water here is very hard or something. It's like it leaves like a white mark on everything. So I'm looking forward to getting a filter again. I haven't had one since I was in Ireland. Yeah, boiling it on the road would help. Yeah, I saw you talking about. We can actually derail a little bit because I was hoping that more people come in. They'll come in after all the videos have played and then argue about stupid shit. So I thought I'll buy a little bit of time and then just wait for people to come in. But I'm not sure people are going to come in for this topic because everybody knows everything. They know what they're talking about. And then what I can do is I can clip this part, highlight it, then it will stay on the channel. And then the rest, whatever we're just rambling on, just will eventually be deleted. So I'm quite keen. I actually want to discuss you. I want you to show me afterwards, like off stream, about the pump filter because I'm actually quite interested in that. Genuinely, because I need to buy a filter of some sort when I can afford one. So I want to look at that as well. So that's my point of view. Everything has its place. But for example, if you're driving out in the country and you're a farmer, an electric car is just a ridiculous thing. It's an absolutely ridiculous thing. It makes no sense at all. And it fills with air somehow even when it shouldn't. Okay. I'm assuming it also uses activated carbon. Activated carbon is really quite a magical thing. If I'm still up. Yeah, or even tomorrow or something. It's not a train smash. I actually do want to do some work tonight because yesterday I had so many distractions. I actually didn't end up doing what I wanted to do. So I really wanted to do some work tonight. Just solid attached carbon filter discs. Assuming it pushes it forces the water through the carbon. That's how it does some filter. Also, have a look at I don't know what type it is, but just remind me. Those carbon filters, the activated carbon, they can be boiled. If you can get, I mean, obviously it's got plastic, you can't. But if it's like a block of carbon, or that can be taken out, you can actually boil them for I don't know how long. That I don't know. You'd have to look up on the internet. I can't recall. I'd have to find out for my own as well. You can actually boil it again. It kind of clears deposits on the surface of the carbon, and apparently they can then use it for another 3 months. So technically, you can actually use one carbon filter for about 6 months. I'm not sure of those. You'd have to find out. Yeah. So, any other opinions on electric cars? Otherwise, I'll run the first video. It's got a syringe for backflow cleaning of the filter. Okay. But if you can get the carbon out, that's one way to reactivate it, like give it a more environmental lease on life, and you can reuse it. And it actually does work. I have done it before with mine. Oh, the electric cars. Oh, we just killed a few people. Never mind. We're saving the planet, so it's fine. Yeah. But that also goes to say, to indicate people need to look left and right, left and right, and left and right several times, because there's crazy people on the road. You know, that's where a nice V8 helps you to not be run over. You hear the roar. It's like, oh my God, there's a car coming. Then you're dead. Electric cars kill people. Whisper quiet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose that is a point. I mean, it's a bit of humor, but that is a point as well. Again, I'm not saying when people hear my arguments against electric cars, it's not that I'm arguing that petrol cars are good and we should, yeah, absolutely, this is the best thing ever. No, I'm not saying that. They weren't particularly great the first time around when they invented it. And it was Daimler-Benz that really put together the first like viable combustion engine, I think, if I remember correctly. But it's not as bad as people say. But that's a different discussion. Today is electric cars. So I'm going to run this one. This is like why cars might not be so. Make sure that the audio is on. Here we go. Might not be such a good idea, and how the lies and the bullshit that you are told. It's about almost 10 minutes, so don't get bored. Don't be bored. Just listen. Important.
No,
it's not all in Chinese.
Of over 10,000 Neta V Chinese EV cars that are rotting away.
I'm going to mute.
600多台啊，21年的，都是50公里以内啊，上牌新车。
And this man has just exclaimed that these BYD cars, all 2021 models, have less than 31 miles on them. Just like that field of 10,000 cars, they all have license plates on them, they're all fully registered, and they've been put away to rot. Yes, all of these cars have been left to rot. Why on earth is China throwing away entire fields of electric cars? By now, we've all heard that China's EV sales are outpacing the rest of the world. You'll see the headlines that say, China is now the leader in EV sales, and Tesla's got to watch out, and all this other nonsense. Well, guess what? It's true, the numbers are true, but what you're not taking into consideration is that China is the land of shortcuts and facades, and all of these cars that you're seeing in this field, well, they're counted in those numbers. Let me explain to you what's going on. Should be around. Yes, I love my extra wallet.
This is really nice. I never expected this.
Father. You see the Neta Vs and the BYDs and the bigger brands that you see huge amounts of them just parked out to rot. Well, you see, that's because they need the numbers. In order to get subsidies from the government, in order to put out the sales figures that they've sold more than Tesla and that they're leading in EV production and EV sales, they need to have these fake sales. So BYD themselves will register them and put them on the market and then claim that they've been sold. And then, of course, they've got all those excess cars.
What interests me is who did they register them to? Do they register them to themselves, like as a corporation? He doesn't go into detail on that.
and they just stick them in a field. And
You can make history tomorrow.
But there's a bigger problem. There are even more car graveyards, and that has to do with a stupid investment scheme. Let me explain. In China, very often you get these fly-by-night investment schemes. Someone comes up with a good idea like bicycle sharing, for instance. And guess what? People jump on the bandwagon. They raise a bunch of investment capital. They start a company. We saw it go absolutely crazy with the shared bicycle schemes. We covered this on the China show, where we showed these mountains of bicycles that had been discarded because the companies knew that if they pumped these bikes out, they'd keep getting investment. So they just kept pumping them out, even when it wasn't financially viable, because like a Ponzi scheme, you just keep getting your investment money in. And all of these bike companies pretty much shut down except for two. And a lot of the people that started these bike companies ran away with the investment money, never to be seen again. The bicycle sharing schemes kind of came to an end in late 2018. And then suddenly, and because the bicycle sharing investment scheme had now disappeared, people stepped in with a new investment scheme for shared vehicles. And this time it was for electric cars. Now, there's this fantastic video, which I'm going to link below in the description. You can see it in the background here. But there's a documentary filmmaker who went and took drone footage of the shared bikes. And he made this video called No Place to Place in 2018, where he showed all of these massive mountains of the shared bike failures. But he then went in 2019 to film the fields of abandoned electric vehicles. So this is No Place to Place 2. And what you're seeing are these fields of shared cars. You see, the idea, like shared bicycles, would be that you have an app. And if you need a car, you can look in your app and see, oh, there's a shared car nearby, a shared electric vehicle. And you go and you unlock it with your app and you can drive to your destination and then lock it again. It's actually a very nice idea. It's not a bad idea at all. But of course, because it's all a money grab and it's a ridiculous scheme and a Ponzi scheme type situation in China, they just pump these things out without doing proper market research, without actually seeing if it was viable or not. And so the end result is fields and fields of thousands of hundreds of thousands of abandoned vehicles that are now going to rot. Now, this is where it gets.
They're all white as well. I just noticed because there's like, okay, there's a little green, but there's like one lonely little yellow calf in the whole lot.
Insidious. These cars are electric vehicles. And that means they have batteries in them. So not only have you created a lot of waste by developing cars that are not going to be used and that are going to be left to rot, I mean steel and glass and liquids and chemicals and all the rest that goes into it, but the batteries, everybody knows that these electric batteries that are used in electric vehicles are incredibly complicated and require a lot of very dangerous mining and chemical processes to create. There are human rights atrocities attached to making these batteries, if you want to look into it. Child labor, slave labor, that kind of thing.
We'll look at that later.
But the detriment to the earth in mining all of these chemicals and all of the materials needed to create these electric vehicle batteries is just insane. So now you've created all of this environmental damage to make these cars, and then you just let them rot in a field. And of course, now they're going to create even more environmental damage because they're going to sit there for however long with all of these chemicals and batteries in them and all the rest of it. And they're going to pollute the environment further. So it's like a double whammy. Not only have you damaged the environment making them, but now you're damaging the environment by discarding them. And this is where China tricks everyone. You see, you hear about their great green initiatives, this being one of them. Oh, look, China's really pushing forward in renewable energy and electric cars. And if you just read headlines and you look at the numbers, etc., you would think China's doing a very good job. But what you're not seeing is the fact that China is actually destroying the earth at a rate never before seen. So you have to look past the facade, and people still don't seem to get this. China is an opaque country. They block all of this information from the rest of the world. You would not be able to just see this. If a company does something like this in the West, you bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. A lot of big news outlets will cover this. There will be, heads will roll. People will have to reply to this. The companies would have to pay some kind of a a fine for damaging the environment or for doing bad things like this, like an oil spill or something like that. We know that there are ways to deal with these things, but because we don't see these things in China, nothing gets done. These massive fields of electric cars just sit there rotting. China's green technology initiatives that you keep hearing about are mostly bullshit and a smokescreen to hide the fact that they're doing all sorts of environmental crimes. And remember, it's all about turning a profit. It's not about saving the environment or anything like that. It's a propaganda push and it's a money grab. They want your investment. They'll say, hey, look, invest in China, invest in these green initiatives. You feel good, you go and invest your money. It's being used for wasteful projects like this that really damage the earth. So think twice before investing in China. And if you want to find out more about what's going on in China, and I'm talking about up-to-date, down-to-the-wire news, events, and everything else in between, come and join me for the China Show on Friday. This is my live show that I do with my business partner, Lauer86, where we cover what's new in China, the soft power hour, the Wu Maos, the haters, the everything else. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's comedic, serious, and everything.
I've been doing a lot of coughing today, a lot of phlegm, so I just left it on mute so I could just cough willy-nilly. So if you want to go and follow, no, it's not muted. No, not now. On the delay, it's probably still muted. Now the mic is working. Anyway, so I posted the South Africa one because, not because like I live there, partly because of that, but also because this shows you what is coming for the Western world. Well, it's here already, actually, to be honest. No. On my end, it doesn't say it's muted. Am I still muted? I think Barney's a bit delayed. His stream, yeah, I think his stream. I was muted because I was doing a lot of coughing. I don't know if it's actually, it could be coughing. The coffee might actually be aggravating my throat. So I thought it's just easy. I can do all my coughing while the video's on. I can just mute myself. You press the key. Press any key. Why is there any key? Anyway, so I was just saying, if you want to follow, I've just posted the link several times. If you want, or just go look at some of his videos, especially if you have an interest in China. I just came across this because I was just looking for some shortish content that I could put on just to show people reality. Not because if I say these things, nobody's listening. They all just go, "Oh yeah, whatever." That's like totally like your opinion. No, these things are happening. Okay, this is just one of them. Yeah, I didn't go search for a million of them because nobody wants to sit and watch these videos like 10 of them. We just need the one. That in its, and then people go, "Oh, it's just China." I said, "Really?" Because they've never done that anywhere else in the world. Then people will say, "Well, we could just give those cars to the poor." They can't give those cars to the poor because they've been registered. Secondly, if they gave the cars to the poor, they would be admitting that there's an issue. So there's always a cover-up. The problem with government funded things is that they're out of your control. You don't get to decide anything. You just give them your taxpayer money and they decide which corrupt person they will give it to. And that's why it's important to know these things are happening. And you can be sure that they're also happening in the West. I had 13 people on my stream through the AI video on and off. The second they realized they were official speakers, they realized that they were official speakers. Oh, they thought that you were playing AI. Yeah. They just wanted to be entertained by fake news put out by AI. Oh yeah. Oh. Hey Navneet. Hey, thank you for coming. Nice to have you here. Did it shout you out? Yeah, it did. Okay, you would shout it out correctly. Every now and again, it doesn't shout people out properly. Where's the pop-up? Do you not have any clips? Did you delete all your clips? Oh, I wonder what's happening with the bot. Doesn't always... Unless you don't have any clips. You do have clips. I didn't call it up.
There's one thing poop.
What is this? That camera is really way off. I'm sitting like literally looking off screen.
Didn't somebody want to eat poop?
Oh, this is Cult of the Lamb.
Whatever. Today's sermon.
It's Cult of the Lamb. Bah.
I didn't choose to move here. Something bad happened to me when I was living in England, and the police advised me
This is an old
to
one.
get the fuck out, to move anywhere I
Did the
could.
police swear?
And I have had a calling to come to Scotland for the past.
They're very rude if they swore. Yeah, so that's the link to the video I've just played. That's his channel. So it's quite interesting. And I mean, I was shocked at the sheer quantity, because I know that this goes on. I was back in the hospital. Oh, I didn't realize that. I realized I haven't been streaming very much, but like I've also haven't been. The last few weeks for myself has just been very hectic and rather worrying. So I haven't really spent too much time. The officer said, "Kid." Wow, in those words. Every time Barney's going to speak, we have to. Yeah, I hope you're on it wasn't too serious. I mean, like, I suppose being in hospital is serious enough, but it wasn't like something overly serious. Something that will be fixed. Something that will go back. You'll go back to full health. So that video just showed the sheer fields, and shockingly enough as well, you saw the ones with bicycles, and so just shows you how these things are happening, and they're happening there. They're happening in the rest of the world as well. Okay. Then in a little while, I played the video. I found this video as well. Actually, a little while ago, it was actually posted to somebody else with absolutely no credits or anything. So eventually, I found the original one, which I've downloaded, just mostly so it plays smoothly and not reliant on the internet in case it glitches. The true costs to the environment. That's the problem. Now, again, and I'm actually all pro hybrid cars. I'm actually, surprisingly enough, I know that people always, I think, if I remember in Recycled Thoughts, I suppose I can give you the link. And I always talk about it, and people say, he didn't write a book. He's not written any books. I've written a few. And I've even got a link to prove it. There we go. It's not on Amazon because, Amazon and I have had a little history. I think I wrote about it in there. I kind of actually do need to rewrite that book. I need to edit the earlier books. But who cares? I don't care. It's free. Until the Duke pops up. And a Duke, for an English person, a Duke trumps everything. Even a Rolls Royce. What was I saying? Yeah, so there are legitimate reasons, as I explained earlier, for part electric or fully electric in city centers, and only in city centers, and generally only small cars. Because if you had a 4x4, electric 4x4, catch the bus. Then it's a big car, Yeah, that's the point. So on the surface, it looks very clean. It looks lovely. Yeah, because it's fucking brand new. The production, that's why I also gave the book link, because the production costs of any production of anything, okay, has a cost, a genuine cost, not these fabricated bullshit costs that they come up with to justify selling whatever they're selling. There's the saying that I keep talking about over and over and over and over. So I don't know who came up, who made, the quote comes from, but it's, if you want to sell a product, maybe it was mine. Maybe it wasn't. First created demand. Maybe it was my quote. I don't know. I always think it was somebody else's. It probably was. Yeah, that's another thing. Again, playing devil's advocate is that we hear about the exceptions as well. To be honest, that probably is in the minority. We've also heard all these phone stories where Samsung blah 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 model keeps exploding and kills 30 trillion people. We also hear that. So I think I also tend to play devil's advocate on the opposite side as well. Hey Jeffrey, how you doing? Yeah, we definitely will. Then what I'll do is shortly I'll run the other one and maybe fast forward a bit of it because it's about 20 minutes. This is about Africa, where I'm from, and where they make most of the pollution, where most Western countries make their pollution, and then they go back to the West and say, look, it's a shiny Tesla. So yeah, I've got a video about that. And again, one can say, oh, but that's just conjecture. There's no proof. Yeah, there's never any proof for anything, actually. In fact, there's no proof that first of all, global warming. First of all, there's actually no evidence of that at all. And yet people still believe it. There's also, then they realize, okay, this isn't working because technically the planet's actually not getting hotter. So we're going to call it global climate change. People have forgotten that it used to be called global warming. That one didn't work, so they just rebranded, and then they just keep pumping out global climate change. That people now don't remember was called global warming. It was rebranded. Mine hasn't exploded yet. Yeah, well, I've had cell phones from at least 1996, okay, and not one of them ever exploded. And I've had lots of different batteries because over the years they all have different batteries, and I've had them for a very long time. Like they're phones that I usually keep my phone. I usually buy it, if I can, I buy the top of the range and I will keep it for like however many years it works. Like it's so too far, I can't reach it. That Huawei, I actually really saved my life when that new one that's a year old backed up and I couldn't get it to reboot. That one actually said that one still came back to it was like, oh my God, thank God. It was like my soul intervened. I said, we'll just make sure this one works right now so you can get your cash. And that one still works, and it's from 2017. So I keep my phones for a long time. That's how you save the planet. You keep one phone until it actually is no longer viable to be repaired or no longer works. That's how getting a new green iPhone every year or every second year. That's what the problem is. It's not technology, it's the abuse of technology. In the Roman era, Britain was as hot as the Mediterranean. Yeah. They're still there's no such thing. Not with what they're talking about. There is this, and this is what I started talking about with recycled thoughts. And I also touched, let me get the link again. For those of you who might have popped in later. And that's what I spoke about. It's the production cost of everything has a production cost. Like, for example, they say, oh, we're killing all the trees. We have to recycle paper. We should have recycled paper anyway from the beginning. Okay. But that has also got a pollution. Recycling paper has a pollution quota as well. It pollutes water. So there's a lot of water that is used in recycling paper. So it's not like, well, I can just use millions of sheets of paper because it'll just recycle it. No, I'm very recycled. Look at me. I'm fresh and young and I look like Jamie. Ink, quick, change the picture. So that's that book. I try to bring people's minds around to the manufacturing cost and pollution thereof. Yes. And make no mistake, they don't actually, they still hardly recycle most of the junk. Okay, they don't. Like computers, they encourage you to take your computers and electronic parts to to recycling centers because they want the precious metals. That's what they recycle. The rest they just dump. And that actually might be, if I can find some information on that, that would be actually a good topic to do on recycling. I just need to find credible sources for that. All right, so yeah, he actually might be napping because tomorrow he's working, so I don't know. All right, so that was that one. So this is I've got that link as well. So let me get you that link. Actually, I'll start running it. I'll start running it, and then I'll go looking for the link.
These stones have become crucial to our way of life. They are called cobalt, essential in green technologies from these electric cars to rechargeable batteries. But while its stock price is predicted to soar, there are minerals that are worth billions of dollars. The people who live and work here are paying a heavy price.
This is acid.
Acid.
Yeah.
Siku ndimuzalaka badadangu mtoto kanyuyu.
It is quite long, so I'll just fast forward some parts. You'll get the general gist of it. You've got the link. Like people get bored watching something for hours, and there's a lot of
the Democratic Republic of Congo, or the DRC, is sitting on nearly 20 trillion pounds of natural resources. It should be one of the richest countries in the world. Instead, most people here live on less than £1.50 a day. Backed up and ready to sell, 70% of the world's cobalt comes from the DRC. 70%. It's a critical component in batteries for electric cars. But helping rich countries hit their environmental targets comes at a cost to the people who mine it, like Emmanuel and Robert.
Do you have family?
Around a quarter of the country's cobalt comes from these makeshift operations called artisanal mines. They are run by a local cooperative of miners who get a license from the government.
There are so many little tents all over this place. Under it, there are holes. They're told as some as deep as 100 meters. These young men go down to dig for minerals. You see these bags? They are minerals. This will be taken to the cobalt market to be sold to international buyers.
Emmanuel wants to show us what the mine is like, but insisting it's too dangerous for me, he agrees to take a camera instead.
And actually they are. This is not just over dramatic. We can discuss this often. The mines, these informal mines, can be very dangerous. Not can be, they are.
While I wait above, Emmanuel clambers down what looks like an endless dark tunnel. In fact, Emmanuel descends for ages as the mine never seems to end.
Yeah, that's what they get into the video. The whole town, the whole area. Let me fast forward a little bit. It's mostly just going down.
Underground in darkness.
Otherwise, it's quite a long,
because
quite a long thing.
Deep underground in darkness and just digging for something, this could collapse at any moment.
Because they haven't got any of the shuttering, like traditional mining is pretty dangerous.
They meet a team of diggers taking a break. It isn't the only team down here.
Now, this is why I'm playing these things, not because I'm African and I'm trying to start some fundraising thing for these people. 70% of the cobalt, all right, comes from the Congo. These are the conditions of some of these mines. So when you're buying a little Tesla or anything with a battery in it, think about it. 70% chance it came from these mines with these people. Excuse me. I don't think I can't drink the coffee online, I think.
In fact, there are many working multiple channels, all following whatever seam of cobalt they can find. And when they find it, they set to work getting it ready for the market.
Huku njo kukata huku njo ashikuweka mu mansaka. Fanya misi munsaka, fanya misi munsaka. Iyo byote njo vile.
They work long hours with barely room to move.
Sasa mnaishi mnespire tu bien. Ba, respiration iko bien. Souffle tukunayo atupatie mu.
They earn about £3 a day, more than most in the DRC, but it's still very low.
Now, I want to stop it there because a lot of Western people will say this. Well, they could just stop mining. Where would Tesla get their cobalt? If they stop mining, the West will create a war in Congo to take charge. That's what they've done with every single country that they want control over. They go in there under like mass weapons of destruction, blah, blah, blah. They will create something to go in and to control it. They've done this all over the developing world. Wherever they've got something like this, they've got a vested interest in keeping the flow. If they lay down tools and they prevent the cobalt from leaving the country, you will hear the Republic of Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. There will be terrorists, there will be hackers, there will be something there that they will go in to sort out. You know. Yes, and that's another thing.
Artisanal mines like this are built in the shadows of vast industrial mines. The huge pits provide the bulk of the world's cobalt. Every industrial
and Jeffrey brings up a good point, and we're not gunning for Chinese. For example, just to give you an idea of what Jeffrey just said, don't forget the illegal Chinese miners that go in and steal the cobalt, etc., etc. For example, China has stripped their coastlines of fish. They've overfished. Okay, so that literally because of the ANC's comrades, for example. Okay, that's what it is. It's communist. The ANC is a communist party. At least it was. Now they're all just fascists, but it's all just words. So they have a lot of ties. So they actually will sell fishing rights off the coast of South Africa, because South Africa is literally 70% coastline. You know, you cannot patrol it all. So you even get illegal fishing happening. And I've seen it at night when I was out in Walvis Bay, Pringle Bay. The one night there were so many boats fishing in the bay. I thought, this is not normal. And they have these lights that they simulate sunlight, very, very bright lights, and then they put them down and the fish, oh look, it's sunrise, and they come up and then they fish them. And then the next morning they're gone. Those boats were gone. So they sell the rights. The government sells the rights to for example, to like China. That's why China does a lot of investment in certain countries like South Africa. So what Jeffrey just said, and this has a bearing on what will happen here if they just say, no, you can't have a cobalt.
Cobalt mine is majority owned or operated by foreign countries. Usually it's the Chinese, while the DRC itself owns only a minority stake in most mines. Just a few years ago, Kolwezi was a sleepy town, but it has been transformed. Anywhere you go, towns and cities across the world, you see monuments of heroes, leaders, and important figures. But here in Kolwezi, they celebrate miners and their equipment. This just shows how important mining is for this community.
Forward a little bit because
and
this
for
is
the
quite
country
long.
in general.
This is just like
But scientists
B-roll
and
type
doctors
stuff.
are increasingly concerned about its
Oh, okay.
impact on public health, because
Dust.
pregnant women in this region have concentrations of heavy metals in their blood that are among the highest ever reported. The artisanal mine has important visitors. A team of doctors and scientists have traveled to Kolwezi to conduct some pioneering research.
Il y a beaucoup de poussière, il y a une exposition assez forte aux
But it's not just the miners that are exposed to the dust.
les minéraux. Et donc nous voulons examiner leur état de santé pour voir quels sont les problèmes de santé que l'on peut rencontrer dans l'exercice de leur métier.
Last year, they published a landmark study into how newborn babies are affected by mining.
Ndio nasikia hapa shingo pale. Kusa inaleta usho kwa kitanda. Unasikia
It showed that copper and cobalt miners in a city 200 miles away are 5.5 times more likely to have children with birth defects. Now, this team wants to find out if the same is true here in Kolwezi, the epicenter of the DRC's cobalt trade.
We want to see the birth defect because the exposure to certain chemicals, including metals, are associated with birth defect.
Alongside the scientists, local doctors are also trying to work out the scale of the problem. In the heart of Kolwezi.
I just saw something. Do you know why most African cars have dashboard covers? It's not because it's a fashion. It's there because the dashboard has had so much African sun on it. And they're so old that the dashboard has deep gouges in it. It's just the plastic retreats, the oils evaporate with the heat, and it cracks badly. That's why you see a lot of African cars that are old have got a dashboard cover. It's not because they want something fluffy on there. It's because it looks ghastly and it's literally cracked really bad. I just saw it in the thing and it just made me laugh thinking back when I used to live there.
So Billy Mukong has dedicated the last 7 years to helping children with birth defects.
Tutafaa paka vile tunafanyaka donc tutaanza kuita moya moya.
Dr. Billy operated 30 children who had cleft palate last week, and they all came back this week so that he can review and see what help they need.
Cleft palate occurs when facial tissues do not form properly in the early months of a pregnancy. It's caused by genetic factors and has been linked to pollution in the environment. Masoud's family has traveled 100 miles to be here and will have to go home tonight. But the doctor has bad news. You spend more time with this patient. What's wrong?
We asked them to
We don't have to play the whole thing. I wanted was to show you. I mean, this is the actual gruesome effects, but like how it's affecting the town is what was I really wanted to get onto. I'm just going to force it because it's still like another 12 odd minutes to go. Nobody really want to watch the whole thing. I'll post the link again if you want to watch the whole documentary. You're welcome. It was mostly just to introduce you to the
touch the wound, but if you touch with the hands, it can
All right.
bring infection.
Masoud is 3 years old. He was operated last week, but his wounds are not healing well because some people touched and his mouth is infected, so he needs to operate again next time.
Yeah,
It's alarming
the
news
heavy
for
metals
Masoud's
prevents
mother, who, like
healing.
many in this clinic, was unable to follow the strict regime to keep her child free of infection. Most of these children come from mining families, which Dr. Billy says is no coincidence.
Alors, quand on est dans notre parcelle, et à côté, il y a une carrière minière qui exploite là-bas toute la poussière qu'on inhale. Toutes ces irradiations vont faire que toutes les femmes au premier trimestre exposées à ces irradiations avec une origine héréditaire ou génétique
They're speaking
peuvent faire
French,
que
yes,
cette
it's common.
femme mette au monde un enfant avec
This is part of Dr. Billy's public health campaign. He has come to the market looking for parents he might be able to help.
Your child is a big head. This is what I like about Africa. Just say things as they are. You know, like there's no need to be politically polite. If you have a child with a big head, bring it here.
Before long, he's in a conversation. This man says his child was born with a birth defect.
The baby was born normally, but when he grows, it doesn't work.
Can you tell us more about the child?
On expliquait, est-ce qu'il anatembea bien, donc il m'a explication.
It seems extraordinary that as soon as we came here, people started approaching the doctor and telling him, I have a child with birth defects. Can you help me? I have a child with, abnormalities. Can you help me? With this, small market and small communities.
Wherever you go in Kolwezi, you are never far from one of these enormous piles of dust.
That's what I was going to say. This is what's left of the mining. It's just dust. So they have to put it somewhere. In recent years, in more developed mines, they actually put they've started making it a condition that they have to put the dust back in the abandoned mines. But this is common. Like, for example, in South Africa, all of your little lovely gold, okay, we used to have these massive mine dumps all over. And then when the wind blows, all right, Nabnia, thank you for lurking and hanging out. When the wind's blowing, it's like think of it like a dune. It's like a beach dune. That's what it's like. And this is full of arsenic and all sorts of really toxic metals and things that are left behind in that powder after they process the ore. Okay, that massive. Look at the size of the houses and look how massive that one is. And that's not a particularly huge one. We used to have some in Johannesburg. Were massive. Eventually, they actually removed, and they actually did. They put it back underground because they wanted the property. The property was such a premium that over like 50 years, it actually became my string for my tent. Are you talking to Barney or are you talking to me? So that's just that whole pile, that whole mountain there is the processed dust that they keep just piling up, and they've got to put it somewhere. And that's what blows through the town.
They are right next to villages.
Look at the amount of dust on this leaf. There is a community living here surrounded by mountains and mountains of mineral waste.
The dust, which ends up all over town, is one of the byproducts of industrial mining. It's the impact of this dust that really worries the medical community.
I've been waiting a phone call from Dr. Billy, and he called last night and he said, I have shown you what I am able to do, which is helping children with cleft palates. But I also want to show you what I can't do, which is helping children with other abnormalities. So today,
He's taking us to meet these children and their families. The first child lives a long way out of the city. When we arrive, it's so far off the road, we follow a motorbike that has been sent to meet us. Mutombo is 2 years old and was born with twisted limbs. Dr. Billy is concerned his condition is a result of mining pollution. His father was a miner. He abandoned Mutombo and his then 16-year-old mother, Deborah, the first time he saw the child. It must be difficult to have a disabled child like this in this community.
Kumubeba mpaka wawe kwa hapa. Mina shindaga ta kukanisa. Shindage nenda mwachaka. Nanga kasema nikifike kule ataria ashuke chini. Bantu batamwangalia. Muvile batanza kumucheka. Roho yangu itanyuma. Siku ndi muzalaka badadangu. Mtoto kanyuyu. Mapenzi ya Mungu. Kama tena ni Mungu akapenda. Ni Mungu. Kama tena kumikona bantu. Mungu yeye mwenyewe anayo.
Deborah is only 18 years old. She is left with a 2-year-old son. His father and the in-laws abandoned them because they didn't want a disabled child. And she has to look after this child for the rest of her life, probably.
It is the water pollution.
Dr. Billy takes me to meet a 2-year-old girl who lives on the edge of this river, which is in a mining area. Kayembe has a condition called hydrocephalus, which means water on the brain. Miriale became pregnant soon after moving here. She spent much of her pregnancy selling fruit and veg at artisanal minefields. Her husband also worked near the mines. When did you notice something was wrong?
Comment est-ce que nous sommes arrivés à découvrir? Vous touchez la tête de l'enfant comme ça. C'est fragile.
Yuko naye baba misha kuteswa sana. Kuanzia tu kumwenji moya na hapa yuko na deza na mwenji moya tena. Miko nateswa paka kuteswa. Mimi natembea naye we mishona tu kintu.
Kuria kwa kiko nilaka je?
Tunamujishaka. Kubamba kintu ashita bamba mikono yuko paka hivi.
Like many people here, Miriale did not take the correct supplements when she became pregnant. It creates a complicated medical background, making it difficult for Dr. Billy to assess the cause of Kayembe's condition.
Ashikufata kipimo. Ashikunyaki acid folic par exemple. Kumpembeni afwa shikule kuku makarriere.
These sections I was going to go forward because it's not directly related, I feel. This is more speculation than reality. You know,
Dr.
it's
Billy
not
and
just
his colleagues
the cobble mine.
are not the only ones worried about cobalt mining's impact on water. "20 miles away, it's a different river, but farmers have the same concerns as Dr. Billy. 72-year-old Mvula is sure the water here is toxic.
Donc kama tunabebe ile mai, tunamwanga huku. Kesho hata hapa sasa kama tunasema tubebe mai tumwange pa kipande. mupite 3 jours mukuye mwangalie, mutakuta hii bulongo iko na nchumvi, inaota nchumvi. Ile nchumvi deja ni asidi iko ndani. Donc detuya, c'est pour cela tunafanya bishima juu ya kuota mai kutumika nayo.
Nothing grows.
They say they are doing all they can, but the vegetables are still dying. They blame industrial mines upstream. Research has shown that some rivers in this region are polluted with heavy metals, including uranium, which makes fish radioactive. The farmers are angry because they have already been forced to move once.
Imagine having to move your farm because the water is polluted.
Mule njo tunaanza kurimaka tuna produire bien. Tunaanza kutosha mashu bien, lenga tomate tusa, iraanza kutoka bien sana. Tena murikuwa kama bulongo bunaharabika, tunaenda kurima amu hivi kuproduire tena bien sa hivi tunaanza kupataka zamani hakuna. Ni kule tulitoka pa ile fashi tunakuwa tena kuteste huku, mais quand même njo paka vile.
C'est 2 points. Oui. 10 degrés. 40 minutes.
And this is quite long-winded. I'm going to fast forward a bit more.
And
I mean, you get the
joins
picture.
The Congo River, which is a source for millions of Congolese people. They want to know if the water contains toxic metals and if there is any surviving biodiversity. Their first impressions are much worse than they had anticipated.
This acid.
Acid?
Yeah. We have different pathway of exposure to pollutants, and this is one of these kind of exposure. So as scientists, I can't conclude that can be linked to birth defect, but the sample we are collecting is going to show us.
While Dr. Tony is telling me this, the professor is with a local activist who simply says the river is now dead.
No fish here.
No fish here?
No fish. There is nothing.
There's no life.
Because the river has been polluted and all fish has died. You see? Donc avec l'acide, je vous dis que l'acide sulfurique ne laisse rien dans la rivière. Il n'y a même pas de crapauds. There is nothing inside. No life in the river.
Before leaving Kolwezi, the scientists took samples from the parents of Mutombo and Kayembe. The results showed that they had 4 times as much cobalt in their blood as the highest values normally observed in people living in Western Europe. It doesn't prove cobalt caused their children's malformations, but Dr. Billy believes it's another piece in the puzzle.
Look at how many people are actually watching this. When this video came on, they all left. Nobody wants to watch it. That's what I keep saying. No one wants to talk about these things because no one will watch it. Now I know, but I'm saying everybody else. It's
We
just
took our
literally
findings
this
to
us.
the
I'm still going to
DRC
do it. I
government,
don't care.
But they did
You
not
know?
reply. But the Chamber of Mines, which represents the industrial mining companies, said each company has an environmental management
that.
plan
All
and
dust.
monitoring systems, which measures levels of waste and other surface or groundwater. The industry is taking steps to mitigate dust pollution, but says dust also emanates from other industries. The people we met here in Kolwezi, the scientists, doctors, children and their families, know that their country is rich in mineral resources, which they should be benefiting from, but they are not. In fact, it's worse. They say mining is polluting their environment and affecting their health. And the sad
It's almost
reality is
finished.
that
A minute
they
or so.
feel powerless to do anything about.
Then the rest is just B-roll
Across
footage.
the world, people demand the latest consumer electronics and electric cars. At the same time, vast industries have been built around hopes that technology will solve the climate emergency. But it all leads to one question: can a sustainable green revolution be built without the exploitation of others?
I think that's the end. This is credits, I think. Just look at those mountains. Okay, these are well, no, not quite mountains, but they're massive hills. We're talking about 40, 50 meters high. They just spiral them up. And it literally just blows out over the town. So it's not just cobalt, okay, powder. It's also it's other whatever's in the ore. All right, so those are basically the two videos that let me switch on the it's an easy way to do this. Always where's the thingy? Where the hell's oh wait, I can start it off from my dashboard. You see, I'm a real pro. Guess let's get this. Get this kick started. Where's that window? Yes, switch on. Then we'll just switch to yes or no. Turn that off. I'll invite Jeffrey on. Anybody else who wants to, you don't have to be an expert to be on my panel. Jeffrey, I sent you an invite. If you said you really wanted to come through on this, and that's what I wanted. Is I wanted to have a discussion about these things. Now, you can say, "Oh, this is just an isolated incident." No, it's not. That's the point. It's not, and it's not. This is just about cobalt. All right, Jamie, because we'll be here for a little while discussing it. As long as while we're still discussing it, it will we'll be here. Now after the conversation kind of dries off, then we'll stop. Let me switch that on. And you don't have to be on camera as well, Jeff. If you prefer just to come on audio, that's also fine.
I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am a real person, not just a seer. You know, I have a real life, and this is part of it. You know, I'm fine with it.
You might not want to do your makeup and your hair.
Hey, I just went and did the hair, man, and I had to change the shirt because I did laundry yesterday, and I put the same shirt on that I was wearing the last time I was on, and I was just like, no, people will start thinking I only own one shirt.
Talking, No, that's what I do as well, like rotating shirts so that it doesn't look like I'm wearing the same one every day. For me, then I have to put the lighting on, and it's like, that's why sometimes I prefer just to be like, if I go on other channels, I prefer just to be audio.
That's one of the benefits of doing Jeffrey the Seer, just on the altar. I can sit here in a wife beater and a pair of boxers. Y'all won't even know. You know, I can look like a hot friggin' mess while I'm in here reading poetry, and nobody really knows.
No, it's just hands.
Yeah, the whole thing with every single bit of the electric vehicle is just shit.
Yeah.
There isn't anything good about an electric vehicle at all. Nothing. Not a single thing. There could have been way back in the day in 1906 when they actually started the electric vehicle process and gave it up for gasoline because they could go much farther with a tank full of gasoline than on a charged battery.
Yeah,
which made sense.
There's actually that documentary about the who killed the electric vehicle.
The electric car, exactly.
I've actually got a copy of that somewhere on my hard drive.
The main problem with the electric vehicle is the fact that we can't store power.
Yes.
Not in an appropriate way. There's no possible way for us to create negative impacted carbon energy and store it long enough to be used in the capacity of a closed system like a car or a truck or a helicopter. And the other thing becomes the weight versus thrust problem.
Yes, yeah.
The more something weighs, the more something weighs, the less it's going to be able to go. These new the new Iron Man guy who rides around in the jetpack, you can make it from land out to the to the ship that's quarter or a half mile off the shore and then back to shore again. That's because he ran out of gas. He can't carry enough fuel if he had enough fuel to do a 10-minute flight, he couldn't get off the ground.
You couldn't get off the ground. That's the theory also of flight. Why for example, ostriches just do not fly. In fact, their wings have actually atrophied because they're useless.
Because they haven't needed to. And to be honest, I don't know about the ostrich though, because the more I look at an ostrich, the more I see an actual, dinosaur raptor.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they were ever flighted Because the dinosaurs most likely had feathers too.
Yeah, it's possible. I would also think so. If dinosaurs and dragons and things did exist.
Oh yeah, I mean
it would
they
kind
were
of make
absolutely.
sense.
Well, pterodactyls are flying dragons, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
You know, and we have evidence of those things. Yeah.
Well, I think they were more gliders than actual flight.
Well, I think what they were doing is what's called riding the thermals, like eagles do.
Yes.
Like an eagle's not all that great of a flyer.
No, they're just good at
they
going
get up real high
and finding
exactly.
Finding
they get up real high and then they jump off of something and they flap their wings a couple of times to get them into that glide, and then they ride the thermals. They're all of those big raptors are kind of set that way. But we can't store power in an effective manner. So we're not ready for the electric car. So all of the ickiness that goes along with creating these electric cars is really moot. You can't do it. It can't be done. And the governments are supplementing all of this because, oh my God, it's a good idea. We're going to get rid of fossil fuels. Oh,
no,
you know why they want to get rid of?
They don't even care about fossil fuels. They care about making money because it's private industry that's benefiting off all of this.
That's the key, is where's the money in all of this? You know, they closed out that pipeline as soon as they started here that was supposed to come through America, the Keystone Pipeline that was, really supposed to bring all this great petroleum to the coast so it could get to third world countries so that it could be refined. And they closed that down like day one because the Rockefellers run trucking and training in this country. And the Bidens and the Rockefellers are like best friends.
Well, actually, who owns the trains is Warren Buffett and Bill Gates.
Yeah. Well, they're all in it together.
Yeah. I mean, it's a collective of
the Bilderberg. We could do a show on the Bilderbergs one time because
but nobody cares.
Nobody does care.
Only we sort of talk about it. They just want. If we're talking about fluffy dragons with pink feathers and slippers, there would be thousands of people here. Right. And if I had an avatar of myself
that danced and do hula hoops. Oh, don't get me wrong. I love it when we go to the hoop lady. I can't even remember her name. Pineapple Hoops. Oh, she is such a fun person.
Oh, the apple shampoo? No.
No. Pineapple Hoops.
Oh no, that channel I don't know.
You haven't been to the Pineapple Hoops yet?
No.
She's a professional hula hooper. She's just a positive person. Yeah, she's just a fun stream to end your night with sometimes. I've never seen her in a down moment, not a single thing. Yeah, she talks to her cats, she does some hula hooping, she'll sing, she'll do all kind of goofy stuff.
Does the cat do hula hoops?
Yes.
That would be a thing.
She does hula hoops with the cat, so I guess that's the same thing as the cat doing hula hoops. But the electric car comes down to money. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, is making far more riches off of his riches than he'd ever like to admit to.
But he's not making riches off his riches. He's making riches off from government grants that you paid for. Elon Musk is rich because the taxpayer made him rich.
Elon Musk is the richest man in the world because NASA asked him to build a better mousetrap, and he did. As far as the rocket taking things to space, getting a delivery system in there, he was able to do it cheaper and reuse the equipment, something that NASA could never figure out. Yeah. So, we made him and we enriched him just because he made a better mousetrap. He made a better rocket, and those rockets are fantastic, and they're going to carry us to Saturn someday as soon as we figure out this whole faster than light thing, and we're almost there. No. We got real scientists that are working on this stuff. I mean, there's probably the two smartest men in the world are working on how to create a gravity buffer. And if you watch things like all these new UFO things that they're letting out, these horrible friggin' IR camera shit that they have HD video of, they're all being led by the bottoms of the craft, like it's being drug along by a magnetic force. And you think about two magnets, the north and the south poles, as they will repel each other if you flip them around. It's the same thing with gravity. Gravity is a magnetic force. So if you can electrically control that, you could absolutely control forward, back, up, down, any way you want it to go, and not really have a cost of energy. But we can't do that yet.
That's the point of the electric cars. Is we've created a really bad situation and pretended like it's good.
I mean, I saw the video you were showing earlier where they have the tens of thousands of cars in France that are just dead. They're not worth fixing.
Are
A
they
new
Fran-
one is cheaper.
Oh, in France.
Yeah, a new one is cheaper to fix.
It's
Like
cheaper to fix.
yeah, when they did all their new meter readers, their traffic people to go around and write tickets in Paris, they put them all in these little electric vehicles, and they were like, we're going to save so much money. These things are only like 9,000 francs. I mean, really, we're going to save a bunch of money on this. And then
sorry, carry on.
Yeah, when you get 6 months down the road and that 9,000 franc car now costs 11,000 francs to repair, well, crap. So now we've got all this unused crap laying in what they call football stadium parking lots. Literally, like anywhere they can park these broken down ass EVs.
Yeah.
That's where they're leaving them because they're just not worth recycling.
Yeah.
They're not worth fixing.
And the reality of it is that people do not seem to get this. People are funding in other words, the costs of those cars, specifically initially, was far higher than anybody would ever be prepared to pay. So they took your tax money, they gave it to people like Elon Musk, like that video.
They subsidized it.
They subsidized it. So you actually paid twice for your electric car.
It's the same thing with solar. Now, I'm all down for making a solar-powered car that can do highway speeds. I'm down for that, where you just, sun's up, it keeps the charge, you drive that sucker down the road, okay? It can't drive at night. I'm all right with that.
Well, no, absolutely. And if you have a small battery, just to, let's say,
run the lights.
Cost.
Right.
Just a little bit of a cost, it's getting slightly less power. It gives it a little bit of boost for the next hour, normal cruising speeds,
Perpetual motion.
That makes sense.
Perpetual motion doesn't exist. It's a law of physics. It won't allow to have free energy. However, what I don't understand is why every electric car isn't set up with an alternator that recharges the 12-volt system. So as the electric car is going down the road, being driven by the electrical system, they could run 4 alternators and provide 48 volts into a charging system. It's not going to replace all of the power, but it's certainly going to mitigate the amount of power that you need to add to it. So even if it gives you a third extended in distance on a full charge, it's worth it. But yet we don't do that. We're still just running them out of juice and plugging them in.
You plug them in.
Not only that, but these people now have roadside services. When their electric car runs out, some asshole will bring a diesel generator out to them, turn the diesel generator on, and plug their car into it till they have enough juice to reach the next recharge station. That is not a joke.
Yeah.
We are spending.
We laugh, but it's not a joke.
No, we're spending so much diesel fuel in the guise of green energy, in the guise of the electric vehicle. It's not even funny. We're producing 1,000% more lithium than we had before all this push for electric vehicles, which means 100 times what we used to get. We are now digging out of the ground using diesel vehicles to do it. Every excavator, every rock truck, every conveyor belt. People don't even realize that, but the conveyor belt systems that run all this stuff from the quarry over to the refiner, that's all run on diesel fuel.
Yeah.
Those aren't electric. They can't. Technically they are electric, but they run on a great big diesel generator.
Yes. That's what I keep saying. Electric, purely if you only look at the electric motor, then sure, it is environmentally liberating because it's creating no pollution. The production of electricity is not environmentally friendly.
Not at all.
So the more devices you have, like we used to have computers that we switched on and off. Our computers are always on. Your phone can last three weeks if we didn't have the bloatware, if we could just turn it off when we went to bed easily. Now these days it's becoming very difficult.
To be fair, though, we went from computers that were running 120 volts to computers that are running 12.
Yes.
So we are really conserving. Almost every computer now runs on a 12-volt system. There's a 120 plugged into your power supply, but that power supply is just a 12-volt converter. That's all it really is.
Yes, but the issue is that we've got trillions and trillions of devices. So
now it's all throwaway
power. So now we can have trillions of them. No, it's like
we are a consumeristic society in most places now. So
this is where the plan fails. Like we have, I don't have it here. Like I have a watch that's just analog. It's got a battery that I change every couple of years, because these days the batteries don't last very long. And it tells the time. I don't need a smart watch. I have a cell phone. I have a smartphone. I still call them cell phones. Like I actually would really, 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 really like a tablet. I used to have one because I really, really, really use it.
Right.
Not because I want a gadget. I haven't bought one because I could buy a cheap one, but I'm going to be very unhappy with it. It will be a gadget that will be in my drawer and will not get much use. So I'm
This is
waiting
what
to be
I
able to
carry for
afford a
time.
high-end one.
If I want to wear a watch with me, this is what I carry for time.
Yeah.
It is
I
literally
used
a
to
pocket
have
watch.
some that were stolen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's white metal. It's garbage. It has a Japan train movement, which means it's certified to work on train time. It has a battery. I've had it for years.
What's that mean?
Back in the day of original pocket watches,
I haven't heard about that.
the guts had to be made to a standard that they were within a half a second of actual set time to actually be used on the train. So each train engineer would have to buy a train certified watch.
That would keep
that way
time.
Because 3 seconds on the wrong track and you're doomed
and you're dead.
Right.
Yeah,
So every station that they got into, there was a train station certified clock.
Yes.
That's why you always saw the engineers and everybody that was working on them. They'd get out their watches and they would change it to it, and then they would go about their business and say, "Okay, you got 2.5 minutes left to get back on the damn train."
Yeah. There's actually a technical term for it. It's something like Swiss time or Swiss something. There's actually a term for that. That it's mechanical, but it is so accurate.
That's the Swiss movement.
Swiss movement. That's what it's called. Yeah.
The Swiss movement is a mechanical movement where most of the time you have to have a key or you wind it within those things, and they are very, very accurate.
That's very accurate.
And they are very expensive. And to repair those types of things is very expensive.
Yeah,
but they went to the Japanese standard from the Swiss movement to the Japanese movement because it was just as accurate. Because it was made in the 1950s during, the super Japanese, we make everything great. Yeah. And so now most train companies still run on the Japanese movement watches because the Swiss watches, you can buy a $500 pocket watch or you can buy a $15 pocket watch. Which one you buy?
Yeah.
If it's for running the train, I'm gonna buy the $15 one.
Yeah.
Same thing with nurses' watches. Nurses' watches are certified the same kind of a way. They have to have a standard to them so that they know how long it's been since they gave somebody medication. Sometimes it matters. But to get back to what we were talking about,
How dare you ignore your dog?
Here's a physical example of what happens with all of this refinement crap. So this is minerals that we dug out of the ground, right? We dug this. You call it cobalt, you call it lithium, you call it whatever the hell you want. Okay, fine. So we take this and we have to refine it.
Yeah.
And we refine it on coal. Okay, so now we have this amount of coal that's heating this amount of cobalt or lithium or whatever the case it is. However, that doesn't refine it. All it does is gets it to temperature. Then we have to keep it at temperature.
Yes, you have to maintain it
long enough for it to be refined to the point that it's liquid or whatever whatever condition we're going to move it into. Sometimes it's a gas. If it's a gas, then we have to add another time frame to go in with it.
Yeah,
and that's all on this green energy. Yeah. We're burning all this coal. We're not they're not refining it on hydroelectric
energy. Yeah.
They're not refining it on nuclear energy. So what are they doing it on? They're either doing it on natural gas or they're doing it on coal.
And this is what I want people to understand. It's not that we anti anything. It's that you gotta actually look at the facts. You can't just say, you see, what business is very, very good at is they say an electric car produces no emissions, which is technically 100% true. It's 100% true.
Yes, that is true.
If you look at the phrase, an electric car produces no emissions. But they don't tell you the production. They don't tell you how they produce electricity, how they produce the car, which was the video we just saw before now. That's what people don't investigate because they don't tell you.
You watch the EV commercials when they talk about lowering your carbon footprint.
Yeah.
You'll see in the very small print in the bottom that says lowering your local carbon footprint.
Exactly, which is
because
true.
All of these cars may not give any emissions out, but they absolutely have a carbon footprint cost, and that's what we're talking about.
Massive, yeah, and
it's
huge,
and you're not
detriment.
Doing anybody any favors by actually buying this electric vehicle and then exporting your carbon footprint to North Africa or
or
South America.
Or even just outside of town where they make the electricity. Because that's on a local level, that's what's happening. So we don't, it's good for, like as I said at the beginning of the stream, I still think there's a place for electric vehicles in the city center because it actually does reduce the overall pollution. It doesn't stop it. It doesn't remove it.
Honestly,
It just,
I don't even think that electric is ready for the problem is the grid.
mass production, yeah.
Yeah, the electric grid is just not ready for any of this.
No,
for 100
it's
years.
not. It has never been.
And I'm talking about America. And America has, outside of California, America in general has a very good grid.
Yeah.
There are certain places that are way overpopulated that you do lose power, brownouts, that type of thing. We lose it due to weather and thing. But you go to a place like Tennessee and it snows a foot, they don't lose power. They still got power. They're still getting along with life and whatever the case may be. But in the grand scheme of things, we're taking all this carbon footprint, all this diesel that we're using to mine all of this stuff. We haven't even gotten into the human costs of all of this.
Yeah,
and then you see, reduce your local carbon footprint. Well, you should ask yourself where the hell that carbon footprint's going.
Where's it gone?
Right. Did the little kids there in Africa did it get the big heads and the birth defects? Did they deserve your carbon footprint? Because that's where it's going.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing with people with electric cars, and they feel so superior. I said, do you realize the people that have had to pay for you to have that snotty attitude about your massive 4x4 electric? I said, you're fucking crazy. Are you a complete and utter moron?
I usually tell those people they need to remove the stick from their ass before they get up on top of the high horse. They'll feel a little better.
They'll feel it. Seriously, I mean, there are genuine. I still maintain there are genuine reasons to have electric vehicles, even electric 4x4s. Okay, but if you're buying electric 4x4 to drive into town, you're a complete fucking moron. But the facts do not support this. The facts, not the opinion, the facts actually completely negate that.
I have a full-size Ford sedan. It's a Mercury Grand Marquis. Biggest fucking sedan made by Mercury. V8 engine.
Yes.
Okay. Automatic transmission, 4 speeds. I get 29 miles to the gallon on the highway.
Yeah.
My son has a 1995 Geo Prism because it's cool, it's retro, whatever. Good engine in it, 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, fuel injected. He gets 26 miles to the gallon on the highway.
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about driving my V8. I really don't, because I'm realistically actually in that particular car is why we bought that car. In the city around town, it's 19, 20 miles to the gallon, and we don't do a lot of city driving, so we don't really worry about that. But anytime we are parked, full-size Ford sedan from 2001, we're parked at a stoplight, I'm surrounded by giant pickup trucks that I can't see over, through, under, or around. And it's always some 5'4" woman with a ponytail and a couple of kids in the back that's driving the goddamn thing.
And they've been proven to be the least safest cars. Most of the SUVs are the least safest cars.
But we can't, here in California, they won't sell a gasoline anything by 2030 here in California.
Yeah.
So they're going to ruin the secondary market for us that have these old cars, because they're going to make a law that says you can't buy anything that's, more than 15 years old.
It does, yeah.
And that'll easily just transition out all these old gas ones unless we keep fixing them. Well, I have a car I can fix forever, thank God.
That's the thing. I was just going to get to that.
Yeah.
Carry on.
You got to prepare you got to prepare yourself for what's coming down the pipe. Now, you got to set yourself up with a modular car, something you can keep fixed, something you can just run maintenance on, get 500,000 miles out of, and it will be the last car you ever have to own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't fall into the need to get an EV when you're being forced to. I can give them the finger and still pay gas tax. But that's going to be the next problem.
That's the next. That's what they're going to change next to force you. And
they're going to raise the price of gas that only rich people have the ability to go anywhere with gasoline.
Yeah, and the problem is that those EVs and all the new, but it's not just EVs, all the new cars, because it's environmentally unfriendly, because it makes a lot of money to keep recycling, to keep making new cars, is that they will have to be replaced every 2-3 years for the environment. So we now have a car that could run. I had my late dad's Mercedes. I had to get rid of it because I had to get rid of it. From 1960, it was a 220E. It was as fast as a snail across ice.
It's like a Citroen 2 chevaux.
Until it got going, then it was like a bomb. But it was heavy. In fact, it wasn't even as heavy as my new Mercedes, actually, to be honest. But it's still going. I think the engines only had major work. It's still going. Somebody still owns it. They loved it so much when it was actually raffled off. I actually had pictures of when they took it, when they bought it for me, and then they fixed it up a little bit more and they raffled it off. It's still going. I had a V6, okay, Mercedes, which was stolen, basically stolen from me when I left South Africa. I never got money for it. I had a V6 coupe, okay, hugely environmentally unfriendly. What the fuck did I care? This is my point. Okay? I didn't drive to work.
Right.
Okay? I didn't drive to work. I drove once or twice a month. Once or twice a month, I emitted less carbon dioxide than some silly little Taz or some silly little car driving every single day to work in peak hour traffic.
Now,
over the 15 years that car existed, it produced. That's the thing. You buy the right vehicle for what you need.
Right.
So buying a V8 to go into town and to be stuck for hours in town, that's stupid.
Friend of mine came by with one of these new electric quads for off-road little four-wheeler, an ATV. And he was all excited about it. It's going to get 150 miles before it needs a recharge. And his new camper has a recharge station right on the side of it, run on diesel generator, of course. But he was all excited about it, and he hadn't seen my ATV. And I rolled out my 1984 Honda Big Red, 200cc gas engine. You fill up that tank, I can go 240 miles.
Yeah.
I get
less than the generator can go.
Right. I probably get better gas mileage than what that diesel generator was blowing through.
No, but this is electric.
Here's how scary it is when it comes to this governmental all around the world. I'm not talking about just America.
Yeah.
Forcing people into this EV, into this electricity stuff. Volkswagen had created their engineers. They went to their engineers and they're like, we want you to create the most efficient fossil fuel engine possible.
Yeah.
Okay. And we want to put it in everything. About? Yeah. They didn't lie about it. I'll tell you the truth. So the little engineers, the German engineers went to freaking work, man. And they came up with this beautiful little 4-cylinder turbo diesel that put out like 200 horsepower, which means you could put it in a car, you could put it in a truck, you can put it in a paddy wagon, you can put it in a box truck. It didn't matter. And just by changing the size of the turbo, it would increase the horsepower to the thing. So eventually everything would have been run by these little 4-cylinder turbo diesels. Now, the claim was that they were cleaner than a gas engine.
Yeah.
So the government says, oh, you're going to have to prove that. Turns the lawyers loose on them. And the lawyers say, well, now you're going to have to prove that these diesel engines are cleaner than gasoline engines. So in an environment, in a laboratory environment, they set it up without the turbo, by the way. Just the 4-cylinder diesel engine.
They're useless without the turbo.
And then put it against a 4-cylinder gasoline engine of the same size. They ran them for 1 gallon of fuel and then took the analysis of the carbon output and said, this diesel's bullshit.
Yeah.
But what they didn't tell you was that on that same amount of gallon of diesel fuel, that Volkswagen ran for 25 minutes more.
Yeah.
The gasoline engine quit after 1 gallon, and the diesel engine was still running on that same gallon for another 25 minutes until it finally ran out of gas. And that would be why the carbon footprint is higher in the diesel, because it ran longer on the same gallon of fuel. So they were measuring they were measuring carbon output over time rather than carbon output over fuel, over the actual quantity of it. And so they screwed us. They absolutely screwed everybody. I mean, because Ford, Chevy, they were all on board with it. They were like, that's a badass little engine. We're going to have to think about this. But you wouldn't see all these big black smokes coming out of these little cars like you would out of a big truck. It's not the same kind of engine. You're not going to have great big carbon blacks. And that's fuel, by the way. When you see a big truck getting started from a stop sign and you see all that black smoke blowing out of it, that's fuel. That's not exhaust. That's not emissions at all. That's actually unburnt fuel. It's unburnt fuel because they can't burn it fast enough that they have to dump it in there to create the torque that they need to get from stop. But, that scares everybody. Oh, my God, that's just horrible emissions coming from the sky. I mean, we can't just say no, because San Francisco, you couldn't breathe in about 1963.
Yeah.
Right the year that Kennedy got assassinated, San Francisco basically was endomed with emissions, gas, and just garbage air.
Yeah, but also what they didn't say is it's also because of it being a bowl. Okay, you get that kind of effect in all bowl cities that are
That
literally
is very
in a bowl.
true. It is
Oh,
nearly an
okay.
island. It has one attachment on its peninsula.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
so they don't tell you that. So you see, in those cases, I say absolutely bringing in public transport that is electric, then takes the pollution and it's not concentrated on the people, so we can dissipate it a little bit.
Right.
That's absolutely the place to do it. But a blanket thing that they've done, I mean, they're doing it because they make money, and the electric cars are now controllable. So you
Right.
don't have
Oh,
control over your own car.
Yeah. You didn't
They
pay your
do.
taxes? Oh, your car won't start.
Yes.
You didn't pay your
Yeah.
house note? Oh, your car's not going to
Your car
start.
won't start. That's
Oh,
the point.
The policeman wants to pull you over and you don't want to stop? Oh, your car's going to stop.
Plus, look at it this way. Now, this goes off into conspiracy theory, but it's more conspiracy fact than conspiracy theory, really. Okay, there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of facts that point towards they want to create microgrids of electricity. So if you can get everybody dependent on electricity and not on fossil fuels, okay, they can just turn off the electricity to control you, which is exactly what's already being done. And what I was saying, but even without going into conspiracy theory, let's say there's just a glitch. Look at your dog. Just happy to be alive.
She's a wonderful dog.
So even if there's just a glitch, like how are you going to get your car started?
Yeah.
Because no mechanic will get it started.
What
It's
happens
so
when the
intricate.
sun throws an EMP at us and it all goes to shit?
Which NASA is now warning us about.
I mean, look, okay,
it's
we
the
are
latest-
inundated
it's the
with
latest news.
billions of specks of cosmic energy every second of every day. The
Yeah.
Earth just gets inundated with energy from the friggin' universe on such a cosmic, expansive scale that we can't even fundamentally understand it. And we're going to say that, yes, we can control that. But that, it is about control. When you
It is,
take away
absolutely.
the ability for people to travel,
Yes.
then
they're fully
they have
dependent.
no choice but to go by your rules and your
By your
policies.
rules. Absolutely. You're
Out here in
trapped.
California, they turn us into outlaws constantly. I'm a pretty good law-abiding citizen. I really am. I like to follow the rules if they're reasonable.
If they're reasonable.
If they're constitutional. If I don't have a right that prevents them from doing something to me, then I'm going to assert that right because I'm a human being and they didn't choose for me to be here. I'm here and these are my rights and you should defend them, not try to violate them on a constant basis. But that becomes then, you know, those of us who live out here in the growing fields, well, then all of a sudden now we got to move.
Yeah, but that's not,
we
that's
don't
what
have
they-
enough power to go back and forth to the city and back out here where we live. So then they're going to be able to control all the land. And the
Of
price of
course.
land has gotten to a point that, you know, the American dream is dead.
Of course.
The dream
But
of, you know, graduating high school, getting married, you know, buying a house, having a couple of kids and retiring at 60 and enjoying your life of fishing on the boat, done.
Yeah.
It can't be done.
But again, I've mentioned this many times. You do know that Bill Gates is now the largest owner of farmland in the US.
Yeah, and
So-
I also know that the second largest owner of farmland in the U.S. right next to those is the Chinese.
So
I'm not
you
kidding.
know where you know this is going the control way. That's why we have
Well,
these
that's-
topics.
I
It's
told my son
under
the other day,
absolute control, not minor control, but absolute.
if people were smart at this point and could see what I see coming,
They would do a complete turnaround.
they would gather in groups, buy 100 acres of land, build dwellings all around it, and farm the inside of it. Because the people who can grow food will eat, where the people who can't grow food will be fed. And
What
they're going
we
to be
call
fed all this chemical protein. Who do you think they're making all this fake meat for? Most vegans that I know of are like super health conscious people. They're not going to
Yeah.
put all that chemical
Yeah.
shitstorm in their body. Oh, I just want to be able to eat a burger. Bullshit. And people that say they want a burger should eat a goddamn burger because the only thing in it is cow.
Yeah.
But the point being is if you can gather for yourself and you can feed yourself, they have no control over
They have
you.
no
So
control.
we need
But-
to create even smaller communities. They're trying to give us the whole
global.
we're all one community. No.
No,
You
we need to go
get
back to
25
community.
people that you can depend upon. And
Who
then
will
you
stick for
need
you,
to
you will stick
share
up for them.
ideas, get on the same page,
Share
and have a way
resources.
to kick somebody's ass out if they get out of hand.
This
you know
is
what I mean?
what we call this is what we call communitarianism, not
Exactly.
communism. Communitarianism.
It doesn't matter who threw in on how much land. It doesn't matter who has
if
what.
your
We're
house
not-
is on fire, they all come with the buckets
Right,
and the hose
exactly.
pipes, and they put it out for you, and you do the
But
same for them.
They want
That's what
everybody
we
who
need.
thinks they still need this American dream now to buy this tiny piece of land and put up a tiny house.
Yeah. Which
you know, because that's the dream
whole,
now. You can still own a piece of land and a house. Oh boy.
And the whole theory, like I always use the biblical argument with this. If God gave us this great green earth, okay, why are we buying
Why do we pave
it?
over it? Yeah, why are we paving over it?
No, not the environmental issue. It's like, why are we buying it? And who are we buying it from? I thought
Well,
you
yeah,
gave us the fucking planet. Why are we buying property?
Half of my people would tell you, and I listened to all those elders. A lot of my cousins would run off and, you know, they'd look for shit to get into, find a peyote tent, whatever the case was. But I'd actually sit outside the sweat lodge, smoke pot, and listen to the elders sit in there and actually talk about shit. And they're and it's just like, you know, they're pissed off because they're stuck on these reservations, man. They really are. Even to this day, they're like, who the fuck does these people think that they, and then they're moving as close into the reservation as they can get. And then Whitey rolls onto the reservation and just does a bunch of crimes, and nobody comes and investigates it. Thousands of Native American women are missing off of fucking Native reservations. I mean, all this fucking happens, and they're all just like, you know, back in the day, everybody used the land. I mean, we all worked as a community. We all grew food. We all hunted. We all made tents. We all made clothes. We all gathered water. You know, it was the sense of it was the sense of community more so than the sense of being taken care of. And they've been trying to push this. We're going to take care of you for your whole life narrative since I was a child.
Yeah,
how the schools have gotten to be such shit. I mean, when you're telling parents that they're not welcome at a PTA meeting, when you're telling people that they're not welcome, parents that they're not welcome at a school board meeting, when you're telling parents that they're a terrorist for showing up at their school and demanding to see what the itinerary, the curriculum is going to be for their child, then you know you've got a problem.
Some things, you
need to take your child out of that government control immediately and take control over everything.
I've never been so happy as to see homeschooling becoming a thing. I've never been as happy. And there are quite a few people now, especially after this whole lockdown of the whole world. Because this is the control. This is why the original discussion was about electric cars. It's about control because they do not have enough electricity for your electric car.
No, the government's going to charge first. And then once the government's charged, the people who have premium is going to charge.
Yes.
And then those who don't have premium charging rights, well, you might get it. We'll see. It's a raffle. You might get to charge your car today or tomorrow, but don't worry. Sometime this week, your car will get charged.
We'll have like South Africa. We have load shedding, so you'll be able to charge your car 2 hours a day.
Right. And if your neighbor doesn't have an electric car, you can just push yours over there and use their charge because they get it whether they have an electric car or not.
Yeah. So if you're not buying a hybrid, you are literally putting the nail in your own coffin.
Yeah, I wouldn't even
to be buying a hybrid because it does the same sort of thing as electric car does. It can charge itself with fuel. Okay. And when you don't, like when you're in town and you're standing still, the engine's not running. It's running off electric. That's where you get the true benefit of both systems in one.
The Chevy Volt, which, by the way, they have discontinued, was the absolute best electric car concept on the planet. Now, the Chevy Volt came with both a gasoline engine and electric motors on two of the wheels, one on the front, one on the back. It had a full battery compartment so that you could charge it for, 7 hours and get 220 miles out of it. However,
wow, that's a lot.
When your charge ran out, your gasoline motor would start and you would then become a diesel train. The way diesel trains work is diesel trains don't run on diesel. They are great big diesel electric generators. Trains are actually electric. So they're running on electric motors being driven by a diesel engine. The Chevy Volt was just that. It was an electric car that when it ran out of electric juice would start the gasoline engine at a very low RPM. Yeah, just at a very low RPM, just enough to keep, 13.8 volts going into the system to charge it back to using.
Yeah.
Right. And that gasoline tank would run like 400 miles.
Yeah.
You could get like 660 miles out of this hybrid, out of this electric this gas-driven electric car, and they discontinued them. Why? Well, because they were too good of an electric car.
Of course, because it's not going to make enough money.
You can't control that.
Yeah, you can't control it. You actually liberate people by having those kind of things.
Exactly, and it's all a pulley-driven system. So you could take that little electric out and put a turbo diesel in there and run it.
Yeah,
because as long as you're driving the pulley, that's what's driving the electrical system, which is driving the electrics of your wheels.
And it's infinitely repairable.
Oh yeah,
as long as you can get parts for it, you could even replace the motor, like you just said. This is what my book was about. Recycle Thoughts is you need to stop looking. Like by the time I wrote that, I said, you know what? It's actually too late for recycling. If you're only thinking about recycling now, you are the problem. Okay, you should be reusing. Like I've got this thing. Like I have this metal mug with and even when the plastic goes off on the outside and it looks ugly, it's still a steel mug. So I can keep using it. It's worked beautifully. I've still got ice in there. I can't show you because I haven't got the top camera on. I still have ice. Yeah.
Yeah, mine too. I've had this 2 years now.
Yeah. That is how
and I
you
use
save.
it every day.
And this whole nonsense of it, people keep, people get very upset with me. They will all leave now the channel as soon as I say this. The planet doesn't need saving. What you need is to clean house. The planet is filthy, which was that video about the cobalt that I ran earlier. Okay, the planet is fucking filthy. The planet will still be as well here after we're long gone.
The planet will kill us when we are in danger.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that simple. It will become so uninhabitable that we can't survive. We'll die off like a virus.
Yeah,
and
we'll die.
The Earth will be just fine in a couple of millennia.
Like the DRC, like the whole cobalt thing, people are literally being poisoned to death. The point is that, and they blame us. And we are only part to blame because we are consumers. Okay?
Right. It's the only choice we have.
Yes. If you weren't a consumer, like I had containers that unfortunately I had to get rid of. They were as old as I was, from Mozambique. That was before we were refugees.
Right.
We had these containers. And we're talking about this is how we clean up the planet, is to make stuff that lasts. I try to avoid, like for example, the yogurt containers here in Mexico are actually very good quality. You know, I haven't bought any Tupperware. I must have about 10 of them. I use one about a week and a half. I'm going to plant in them as soon as I can afford potting soil. Because they're nice size. I can put them on. I've got this long window that faces out. I can plant stuff in it, and I use it like when I buy pineapples and I buy melons and I chop them up and I put them in there. And I put them in there.
I got to let the dogs out before they pee on my floor.
No problem.
Like
I'll carry on waffling on.
Let's go.
Yeah, like I was just reminded because Jamie was saying that, and I used to. We're going outside. Let me just remind me, Jen. I think the noise is still. This is saying remind me to need to, but I don't think I need to. And there was Jamie was saying about the yeah, woo pee pee. We've been holding this in for ages. Let us out of here. We need to pee. And like the ice cream tubs as well, like the kind of thing. And I used to, and the old days, I had ice cream tubs that used to have computer stuff in it. We used to buy like the 5 kilo. Hold on, I can't even see my camera. Like big container, like must have been about
the 1
20
gallon
centimeters. Jug. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know. I can't do the conversion. And I can't do the conversion of gallons to kilograms and liters and things. Look at that.
A 4 liter.
Yeah, 4 liters. That would have been a 5 liter. So it's around about that thing, that size. And the original containers were so good that I still had the old cables from like Pentium 1 and Pentium 2 that I didn't use, and I didn't want to throw them away because I still had boxes of these things, and I had written on with a Sharpie. You guys call them a Sharpie. We used to call it a Cokie pen. So I would have like for example, network cables, printer cables, because eventually the printers became updated. So, and these cables, somebody got them. Somebody's fucking happy. If Henk had gotten them, he would have been very, very happy because he's got the whole retro stuff going. And that's how good they were. That I used to have them in the garage, like with parts, with screws and nuts and bolts and things like that.
I had a friend that bought one of those storage shops, one of those storage bins, that people don't pay on, and they put them up for auction. Yeah. And inside of it, there was like butter, Land O'Lakes butter tubs, and ice cream tubs, and just great big plastic things, and they were all full of the same kind of computer hardware you were talking about. There were motherboards and hard drives.
Yeah, I had those as well.
So we pulled it out, we took it home and started laying it out, and we just built caseless machines, and we were playing the original Quake on a server there in the house with 5 people out of a box of crap because it was made that way. It didn't die.
It didn't.
What happened is that the manufacturers went in and said, they did this with the light bulb way back.
We're not selling enough of these things.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what they did. They came in and they were like, man, Edison, that light bulb that you sell, man, that some bitch works for 100 years. We can't sell enough light bulbs. You know, these are the salespeople that are selling the Edison bulb. And he's like, you know, I can make that out of shittier material that would probably pop like, you know, once every year or two. Okay, sure. Maybe it should pop like every 6 months, like, you know, twice a year. What do you think, Edison? I mean, that's what everybody did, is they kind of got on board and said, well, shit, you know, we're just making shit too good, so we need to make it as cheap as we can.
Now, I'm going to tell a story that kind of saddens me, okay? I had a fridge powered by Ford. It's probably still going somewhere. Somebody hasn't abused it.
Oh, you're talking about a Ford compressor. Yeah.
Philco used to make, used to use Ford motors. I had, not me, my parents had a fridge. Okay? They had it before I was born. I'm 54. Okay. I don't know if it's still going now because eventually I had to get rid of everything. That fridge saw 3 different countries. I don't know how many different provinces, how many continents, saw 2 different continents. It endless houses, moved back and forward. It had the original door rubbers and seals. Okay, it was completely original, like 60-year-old fridge with a Ford motor that purred perfectly. I don't think anybody ever regassed or anything. The inside had like really taken its knocks, you know, from 60 years of plastics. You know?
Right.
For 60 years, and it broke my heart to have to get rid of it because it was fucking ugly as sin. It wasn't one of those like retro sweetie pie fridges. It was just ugly, you know. But it always ran perfectly.
At the garage that I worked at, we had a big air compressor that was like that. It had the big Ford air compressor on top of it, the big air motor on it, and it finally stopped working. And between me and the car engineer that I was working with, we couldn't figure out what the hell was wrong with this. So we called one of the air guys in. And he's like, oh man, I ain't seen one of these since my grandpa was, you know, my age. What am I supposed to do with this? And
I don't know.
Like, never mind. Go on. That's fine. Thanks for coming out and checking it, but we're not buying it because that's all he wanted to do. He wanted to sell us a new one.
I don't want a new one. I want this one working.
Right, exactly. So he went away, and the guy that owned the shop, Dave, he says, what are we going to do? I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pretend that we're stuck on a desert island, and the only way that we're getting off of this fucking island is to fix that friggin' air pump. Yeah. So we did. We just started dissecting it. It was seals. That's all it was little rubber seals in Florida. Finally had taken a shit after 50 years of running every single day, all day. So we just heat. Yeah, exactly. And we put the new seals in it, and son of a bitch came right back to life because the motor ran. It just wouldn't make any air. You know, that was the problem.
It was all escaping. Yeah,
right. It was just shooting out the seals before it could get into the tank.
And this is what I'm talking about. If you want to clean up the environment, we have to go back to this. So if you have an old fridge, don't get rid of it because, the new one is just so pretty and it's got instant water. You just push the glass there and the water comes out. Like, stop that shit. That is, we need to keep, I mean, like, unfortunately now, whatever I buy now is all going to be new because, like, I don't have anything. I mean, I've immigrated twice. So sadly, I don't have. I would still have that.
Well, why not
have some of those things?
Why not pick up something secondhand that works?
Well, I may very well do that.
Because that's what I did. When we moved from Sacramento, we had a little tiny apartment. We didn't have a washing machine, didn't have a dryer, didn't have any of that shit. And, you know, we had a spot for a washer and a dryer now. It was like, holy shit, I got to get a washer and a dryer. What the hell am I going to do? Yeah. I went and looked at new ones. They were like $1,000. I'm like, bro, I just bought a house. Moly. I don't have a freaking penny. So I start going through the local websites for, shit for sale. Yes. And there's a matching washer and dryer Whirlpool for $300. Well, shit, yeah. So those suckers are still sitting back there in my laundry room since day one. The dryer finally went out, and I looked online, and they had a rebuild kit for like $38. So I bought it, and I was like, I used to build supercomputers and blindfolded, drunk, on a Saturday night in a fucking lightning storm. Right, so
you should put that shit on YouTube.
Dude, yeah, it would have been fun. But I literally changed the motherboard of a doctor's computer in the parking lot in the back of my truck, ungrounded during a lightning storm. It hadn't started raining yet, but the lightning was all over the place. My hair was moving up and shit. I didn't care. Didn't give one goddamn bit. It was such crap that you had to be grounded to work on that stuff. It was the grounding strap company that wanted you to make sure that you were grounded on everything. But it's the same kind of thing. You got to fix it. I put a heating element in it. I put there was something else, a temperature sensor, and something. The fucking stove went out. Wouldn't keep temperature. Says it's 400 degrees in there. Sure, it's fucking 400 degrees in there. Temperature sensor is bad. It's fine.
Yeah.
$9, and then later, and it's back working again. You know, it took 4 minutes to fucking change.
But there's two factors to this. This is why the electric cars have become such a phenomenon. It's two things. People don't know how to fix things, and that's on purpose. Okay. And two, the manufacturers make much more money to replace the item. So when they come to you and they say, "Oh, environmental this and environmental that," and you need to stop doing this and you need to stop doing that. Right. No, we need to stop buying a fridge every 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is.
Stop making fridges obsolete after 10 years. That's what really needs to happen.
So that's the problem. So if you have an old appliance, like I'll tell you, and it also made me sad I had to get rid of it. I'm 54 and we got our first microwave. I was, 12, 13, 14. Do you know I still had it, and I only had it repaired once. That the magnetron packed up. I had to replace, and I replaced the magnetron. I replaced the magnetron with an even better one. It was even more amazing. It was the best microwave I've ever had. It was big, so we could actually cook in it.
If you ever touched the thing while it was on, you had already completely overseen the safety limits to that damn thing. Just being in the same room with it is questionable. I don't even have one. I literally don't have a microwave.
Well, you see, I look at it a little bit different. Okay, we have radiation all the time. We now have so much radiation permanently through Wi-Fi, and I'm not talking 5G. We're just talking about radiation. Our whole existence is radio waves, everything, light, everything. So like I don't worry about it, and like I've used one. We've cooked with it for close to 50 years. No, well, 50 years. Let's say 40 something years. So. It's just a form of heating. It's just a different form of heating. Your oven pretty much puts out waves as well.
You're using, your oven puts out energy in heat. Yeah, I'll give it that.
But the way it cooks,
the fact that they make, the microwave, literally in its name, makes it from radiation, micro radiation to excite the molecules inside whatever it is that you're trying to heat, so that they create friction upon themselves and burst. Is a little different than blowing some hot air on my steak.
Yeah, but it's the same process though, because you're sending out heat. True. Which activates the meat to change whatever you're cooking.
The end product doesn't give a shit. I'm just worried about, to tie this back into the electric car, the Tesla batteries.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, my back cracky, my chiropractor, and I are very good friends. And he's also a nutritionist, and he is a medical doctor. He's not just like some quack that went to chiropractor school. So we talk about things all the time, and he was like, I asked him if he had solar on his house. He's like, I wouldn't have solar on my house. I wouldn't live next door to somebody that had solar on their house. I was like, why is that? He's like, oh, those Tesla batteries, I can't imagine the radiation that comes off of all of that lithium-ion battery pack that's permanently affixed to your laundry room. So
I mean,
it's kind of like living underneath the electric lines. I don't think I'm buying a house under the electric lines.
I wouldn't either. However,
well, the Tesla batteries, they say if you've got 4 or 5 of them, like in a cluster where people have like homes back to back that have them all, in that same kind of a corner,
creates
creates
like a field,
an existential magnification of the radio, the radio intensifies. So it's basically they build upon themselves. So instead of being affected by like 522 hertz, radio wave, you're affected with 180 hertz radio wave, and that's completely different.
But I mean, this is a slightly minor discussion compared to that. But like your toaster's already got computer equipment. Your fridge, everything's already got storage. It's got batteries. Everything. Your smartphones, your tablets, your TVs. Everything from the last 10 years is already creating this electrical field, which is not particularly healthy. And this can be proven, like where you have like high concentrations of electricity. They call it the EMF, the
electromagnetic field.
Magnetic field. Okay, when you have a lot of electrical fields, like high voltage electrical fields, things don't like to grow there. Birds don't nest there.
Leukemia likes to take hold in kids that live underneath power lines for the same kind of a reason. It's. There's a definite correlation to extreme amounts of exposure. So what happens when you have 10 Teslas sitting all in line at a stop sign? Or, you know,
Yeah.
the other question becomes is okay, so I watch a lot of videos just because, well, I watch a lot of videos. And one of them I watched is a repair shop that I like that's in Canada, and they were working on this Tesla. And they brought it in because the battery was showing a short. And they took it to the Tesla dealer, and the Tesla dealer was like, "Oh yeah, no, we can't. There's 15 banks of batteries in there, so we'll just replace the one that says that it's bad, and it's it's like $2,700." And the guy's like, "Oh, okay." So he takes it to a regular mechanic who has actual common fucking sense, and the mechanic says, "Well, it's going to take me like 6 hours to figure out which battery's bad, but I'm still not going to charge you $2,400 to replace one battery." So they're like, "Okay, that's fine." So it takes him half a day, and he has to go to the electrical connection of each individual one of those lithium batteries in each one of those banks until he finds the one battery that has a fault. And then he has to carve open the entire block, unsolder that one battery, put another battery in its place, put the block back together, secure it, and slide it back in place for it to work. But they would rather you throw out that entire lithium battery in lieu of buying a new one
because it makes money.
Because it's what they call a black box operation. And that's basically, they want to be able to remove and replace components at will without repair. And the military was the one that started that stuff. In all these airplanes and all these fighter jets and everything we have, all of their components, like, oh, my radar's not working. You pull black box number 6. You put another black box number 6 in its place, radar works again. You send that off to the radar guys, and they fix it. Yeah, that's what they're trying to make. They're trying to put mechanics out of business as well.
And this I've been warning people for a long time, and it's not like I'm anti-technology. I like AI. I use AI quite a bit. You'd be surprised. I might talk about these things and say these things are not good for you when they are used badly, and we don't have control over how these things are used.
No. And we're being forced into them. That's the problem. We're being forced into participating with all the ickiness that goes along with it.
And it people say, I'm not forced to. Just wait until everything's 15-minute cities.
Well, yeah. Wait until 2030 when I can't buy another gasoline-powered car.
No, you won't. And you won't have money to buy one either.
Right. I'm being forced.
You have to buy with credits.
I recognize my ickiness in having a smartphone, in what it took for the lithium and the cobalt and the lives that it affects. If I would have had a choice to buy something that didn't have that effect to it, I would have taken it. But with my advanced conditions, I have to have a phone that's available 24/7 for my doctors to be able to reach me. Is the way that I okay it in my mind, but I still accept the responsibility that I know how shitty this really is.
Yeah, it is. But like this one that sometimes turns on, sometimes it doesn't. If I put it in the freezer, it'll turn on. Okay, this thin little beautiful Huawei, which I hate the company, but I like the products. Okay, I had this one since 2017, and the only reason why it's not working is because I dropped it. First, when I got to Ireland, like you can see the corner, it's wrecked. Yeah, I tripped over pavement and I fell, and fortunately it was inside my jacket pocket. And then I dropped it the last time, and that was it. And this phone did 50,000 kilometers on the charger all the time. You know that it took 5 years before the battery actually started to die on this thing. That one is a year old. It's already all dying. It's complete. This one. I can't even bend it. Okay, it's actually heavier than that phone. That's
exactly what I do. Is I will keep my latest smartphone until it no longer functions. And so I went from an S4, which was my first one here, and then it took me 5 years. I got an S9. And then I went all the way to the S22 before I bought this one. So, I do try to use that component just for as absolutely long as I can to make the human cost of it at least seem worth it.
Yeah, but
to just toss, I don't like this iPhone, I'm going to go buy a different one.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you got 20 of these things laying in a drawer with a family of 3.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. Is if you at least try to buy quality, the carbon offset, that's all bullshit. This is all a marketing thing to make people buy stuff. Okay, the real carbon footprint, first of all, it's nonsense. There's absolutely no evidence. There's no scientific evidence at all behind this. It's just people saying this. So forget the whole, but getting sidetracked on it. Like a phone that, since 1996, I've had one phone was stolen, so I had to get another one. So I had the first one, which was I borrowed from a friend or lent from a friend. I always get those two mixed up. Then I eventually gave it back to him, and I bought my first 388 Ericsson. Then I got a newer one, okay, which was a flip phone. I was the envy of everybody because it was tiny.
Right, and now they're monstrosities again.
No, they're monstrosities again. So then I had that one. That one was stolen out of a car. So I had to buy another one. So I've had four there. One I gave back was somebody else's. Then I got a Sony Ericsson when they sold the company. Then I had that one. So that's 5. Okay. Then I got an LG because that one eventually 10 years later just didn't work anymore.
Right.
It actually still worked, but it didn't. It just I couldn't use it properly anymore. And
Well,
then I
the
bought an LG,
technology had
that's
changed
6.
to a point that they had phased out that Wi-Fi signal.
Yeah, and it was also just tired. It was just tired. It
Like,
it worked for
Joe,
10
my man,
years.
I love you, but I ain't got it in me today, man. Just let me on the nightstand plugged in. I'll try again tomorrow.
And the battery still worked. And it was still original battery. And they'd been to the bottom of the swimming pool by accident. I was expecting a phone call, and I was waiting. I was bored, and I was trapped. And I went to go. I put it in my pocket, and I'll go. And I bent over. I had this thing, and I bent over to use the brush on the walls, and it fell out of my pocket. I went, oh my fuck! And the person still didn't phone me anyway. I was like really pissed off. Then that's what, 6 or 7. I've forgotten now. Then I got an LG, which is an absolute piece of crap. Then I got this one. So in what 23. About 28 years, I've had 10 phones. So that's literally an average. And one of them wasn't mine. I gave it back to the person. 2 of them were stolen. I had to buy another one. That's how many phones I've had in my life.
You know, originally they were nickel cadmium batteries.
Yes.
And even though that's not the greatest thing in the world, at least it was a regulated, supply of ickiness. The only phone I ever lost, I was a dumbass. We were at SeaWorld, and I was riding the Kraken or whatever the hell the new friggin' roller coaster was. And I buried it down in my pocket. Like my sunglasses were over top of it. There was, a bandana stick over the top of that, and the pocket was Velcroed friggin' shut. I was like, there's no way that's coming out of there. It's like I left my flip-flops on the other side, and I got on the damn thing, and we got off, and I was supposed to message the wife when I got out of line because, she'd go do something with the kids, and then I'd go ride the ride and vice versa. And I couldn't find my phone. Yeah, I couldn't find my phone. I'm like, oh, that's not possible. Everything else was there. The sunglasses were there. The bandana, the pocket was still friggin' Velcroed shut. I'm like, son of a bitch. So the next morning, I call SeaWorld. I'm like, hey, if some dumbass actually took a phone on the Kraken and it fell out of their pocket in the middle of the ride, what would happen to it? She goes, oh, we have nets up there for dumbasses. We probably have it in a bag here. And I was like, oh, well, I'm one of those dumbasses, and I'm looking for, I was looking for my flip phone. She goes, is it a black one? I was like, yeah. She goes, it has a nice piece of seafoam green stamped on the side where it's smashed to pieces, but you can come get it.
Oh.
So I went in. Yeah, I went in and I picked it up, and it was in like 8 pieces in a bag labeled cell phone coffin. But it had a chip in it. Back then we actually had SIM cards that had all your information on it. It wasn't in the phone.
Now it's digital.
I just took the wife's
card.
old one and plugged it back in and stuck my chip in it. I was back on the phone.
Yeah.
I didn't go out and buy another one. Yeah. But you're right. We do need to reuse things, fix things. We need to get back to having things that are worth fixing. We need to stop buying the $500 TV made by friggin' Chinese kids.
Yeah, but what happened is people went cheap because we're always on a budget. We always and because of inflation and hyperinflation, which we're all experiencing now, it's lovely. Everything's becoming increasingly more expensive. So everything is as a plan. It's not just one thing. So what's happened is people just generally started going to cheaper brands, which was the idea. So that's why they shipped it off to slave camps in China, so they could produce these things for cheap. Okay, everything that people use now is pretty much produced in some sort of slave camp somewhere. We don't call it that because they can leave. Yeah, it's sure, like they can leave, and then how do the family eat?
Your Ford car has an instrument panel in it that is made from gauges and little gears and little cogs that are all made in factories in China.
Yeah, pretty much everything. Because
everything, we have shipped off all of our carbon footprint to China, and now we're mad at them for the amount of carbon footprint that they put out.
We're angry
India's the
because we've
same
got
way.
those little slaves to do shit.
Right. If it's not made in China, it's made in India. And both of the people, China and India put off 1,000% more carbon than we do. Yeah, because they're putting off our carbon. Well, who do you think's making all the shit that we buy? We don't make anything here anymore.
Yeah, we don't. And it's not just, we always run America down about this, but it's not just America. Like South Africa, I lived there for many years.
It's absolutely the world.
It's absolutely the world. Like we have centralized production where it can be controlled. Like South Africa was a nuclear powerhouse, for example. Yeah. We used to have nuclear weapons. I'm not South African, so technically it's not we. But they had they had nuclear weapons. They could have blown up Washington if they wanted to.
They could have blown up Northern Africa if they wanted to.
Yeah, they could have done. And then the US wanted control of all of this. So they said, okay, we've run our tests where you are. We developed the stuff there. Now, thank you very much. Now disable it. So that's what happened. So we used to produce our own clothing. We had our own textile industry. We had our own clothing.
Because cotton was one of the only things that would grow in that region.
Yeah. So, basically South Africa has every single vital thing that it needs, like including oil. It's just offshore. So it's very expensive. So it's easier to bring it in. Okay. South Africa is one of those beautiful countries that literally has everything it needs. Okay. And suddenly South Africa stopped producing anything. The clothing comes from China. South Africa produces a lot of iron ore, steel. Okay, it actually gets sold overseas, and then we buy the finished products back at import duties, taxes, import costs.
And that's still cheaper than actually refining it in their own country.
Well, I'm not sure the exact process. If it was just sent as ore or if it was sent as process, whatever it was. The point was that South Africa was a powerhouse, but it wasn't convenient for certain people because it's a powerhouse, because it has so much that can be stolen out of it. It's beneficial to keep it downtrodden. That's the point. That's why South Africa is not a superpower, because it has everything. South Africa, for many years, that's controversial, but the whole apartheid thing, for many years, they just gave the world the middle finger. Said, fuck you. So they put sanctions, they carried on. It's like, fuck you. We have everything we need. We make everything.
We don't
have
need
nuclear.
You need us, so fuck you.
We have gold, we have diamonds. Like, where the fuck are you going to get those?
Right.
We have oil. If we really push it, we have reserves. We'll just build a fucking, thing. We
refinery.
South Africa makes fuel that's not made of oil. So for 20 years, they just said, fuck you. It wasn't a good thing. I'm not saying.
Why we're not making hemp fuels is beyond my understanding. I mean, we make
can
ethanol.
make them. Yeah,
we make corn fuel. We should absolutely be making hemp fuel at the same time.
The thing is that they always demonize things that anybody can make, because then they don't have control over it.
Well,
the whole point is to have control.
The problem with the hemp industry, because anything you can make out of fossil fuels, you can make out of hemp. And when I say you make it out of fossil fuels, guess what? Your solar panel, it's surrounded in fossil fuels. The battery compartment and all the controllers in there, made out of, you guessed it, fossil fuels.
Actually,
the plastic wrapping that are holding your batteries all together on the side of your solar panels, guess what? Fossil fuels.
Yeah,
all of it mined and refined on fossil fuels. Yes. So you're not getting away from fossil fuels by going to solar whatsoever.
Yeah. You can reduce the amount that you use, yes.
Right.
But if it's built to last and you can keep it, then you've had a reduction. But it doesn't.
The hemp industry on that said, well, okay, we can make hempcrete. So why are we still using concrete? Concrete is very caustic to the air. So is black-palt and asphalt. Why are we using hempcrete? It actually outlasts all of that other stuff as well. Not only does it outlast it, but every bit of carbon that it collects while it's growing is locked away in that hempcrete until it's not, until it gets destructed down and recycled into something else. So the captured carbon of the hemp products totally defeat the whole global warming, or the climate change, as they're calling it now. Well, it's about global warming. Well, if it's about global warming, then why the fuck are you refining shit in North Africa?
Yeah.
You think that's not affecting the globe just because you move where you refine the dirty shit? I mean, of course it's
we just get a bigger carpet and sweep it under the carpet. But that's why I always go back to that Ford fridge, Philco, powered by Ford. And I actually still have the little tape measure somewhere in storage that actually had the Ford logo on it. That's what's one of the gifts that came with the fridge. Like, I still say, yeah, it has CFCs. Guess what? It had them for 60 years. It was never regassed.
The same ones.
That I know of. Yeah.
Right.
They're the same ones that we put in there. We're stuck in there, and they've worked for 60 years. It's probably, I hope so. Somebody's still using that fridge. It's ugly as sin, but it's still going. That's what I keep saying. That is what we need. We don't need any. Hey, Terra Mama, how you doing? Let me give you a shout out quickly.
I'm going to let the barking dogs in because they're going to be pissed about it.
They bark if they're indoors. They bark if they're outdoors.